This is Veterans News Radio, getting to the heart of Veterans Affairs. A program dedicated to unveiling the truth in a relentless pursuit of justice on behalf of veterans. Coming to you live from Rhode Island to the world with your host, High Speed Sal.
Welcome back to Veterans News Radio right here on 1380 WNRI in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. This is High Speed Sal coming at you live. Hope everybody out there had a good New Year's. I'm hoping the guys over here did too. Dennis?
Good evening.
Did you have a good New Year?
Yeah, all things considered.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, her mom passed away, unfortunately, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, this time of the year really sucks. Talk about passing away. We've got something to talk about a Marine unit that was, I guess, at Restivo? Or wherever, in Afghanistan, where these guys are killing each other. Then later on, we've got a guest coming on. He talks about endocrine disruption, different chemicals, and, you know, that they're actually feeding us and giving us. His name's Jim... oh boy, my bad.
Yeah, James Stallings Jr. He's
Thank
from
you.
Utah, and he specializes in this talk. He's also got his own talk show as well on Blog Talk Radio, but he'll talk about his talk show too. You can tune in and listen to his show. Awesome show. Good friend of mine. He's one of my reporters for TruthRadioShow.com, actually. And by the way, he's going to talk about this endocrine disruptors and all this toxic radiation, not only in the military, but the public are getting poisoned with, and it's horrifying. You need to listen to this.
Well, yeah, that's going to be coming on later on. So this is what's going on, and I don't know how many people out there have actually had anything to do with the VA or deal with the VA. I actually think we need to give the VA a new name, and we need to get away from, Veterans Administration and give them something really, really nasty, because that's what they deserve. You realize that since that investigation a couple of years ago with veterans not getting care and what have you in Phoenix, but actually they found it was going on in the rest of the country.
There's actually just one recently, I believe, in Connecticut.
It's still going on. It's going on everywhere.
That a patient died in care.
Yeah, it's going on everywhere. How much more are we going to have them lie to us? How much more are we going to listen to these politicians? I'm not even going to call them politicians. These people are career in Washington. And then, oh yes, let's not forget, then we have a commander-in-chief that gets on, thinks about different stupid things and starts to cry on TV. But anyway, okay, so fine, great. You've got a little bit of empathy or what have you, but come on, man, look at your veterans, see what the hell you're doing to us. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. A little story about a veteran that's been going through a lot the past few years. This veteran then turned around and decided to be able, he got the help and he was able to go on the outside and start seeking outside medical attention. Well, this veteran basically, by getting the outside medical attention, was found to have all sorts of different issues going on that the VA kept on denying. And now this veteran's going to get treatments and hopefully feel better. This is the crap, the absolute crap we get put through. They tell you, well, you can go to the VA, you're okay, we'll take care of you, we'll do this, we'll do that. Yeah, they'll do this, they'll do that to give us our pills, they'll do this and do that to give us our psych meds and everything else too, or to make us look like we're a bunch of vagrants. That's what we should call them, vagrants. The Vagrants Association or something like that. VA, right? VA, they should all be closed down. They should be privatized. I'm sorry, that's the way I feel about it. Sorry for anybody else that doesn't want to think that way. But that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing to all of us. Remember that. And I don't care if you're going to turn, well, they took care of my hangnail. Yeah, but when it comes to something more important, they don't do it. And then, of course, we have our suicide issues. Our suicide issues that Dennis over here has something, actually something that came up. Where's it from, Dennis?
Well, it was listed in the New York Times back in October, but it's been since come back into the limelight. The 2-7 Marines were sent to Afghanistan back in 2008. While they were in Afghanistan in country, they lost 20 of their Marines due to in-combat fighting. Since their deployment and coming back home, they've lost an additional 13 more to suicide, which puts this particular Marine battalion 14 times higher per capita than the United States as a whole. Where was the proper debriefing? Where was the in-combat psychiatric help from? And I know that they issue naval doctors and naval psychiatrists to Marine Corps battalions when they're in combat. Where was the help that these guys and girls needed?
I believe these guys were at Restepo, which is it's a place that's very, very middle of nowhere type of thing, like halfway down a valley, what have you. A real dangerous place. A lot of stuff's gone down there. Yeah, I mean, could 14 times higher than the American rate as a whole. That is mind-boggling. I believe in one particular instance they actually had 2 of their guys. One had passed, and not even 2 days later, another one took his life. I mean, this entire battalion, the 2-7, my heart goes out to you. I have no words to express the sadness that you and you guys must be going through. Well, my feelings are this. You're set free. You're home. We know about how much they're starting to downgrade our military. Even if you didn't want to go home, you wanted to be a career, well, guess what? You're not doing that no more. You're out. Gone. Done. You're going into the VA. Pardon me, but the VA ain't doing jack. You know what the rest of the word is. They're not doing jack for us. They're not doing it for us. They didn't do it for the guys in Vietnam. They didn't do it for the guys with shell shock back in World War II or Korea. Shell shock, that wonderful word. Then they turned it into PTSD.
Well, first it was battle fatigue, then it was...
Yeah, that was World War I.
First it was shell shock, then it was battle fatigue.
Yeah, got you. But anyway, this is what's going on. They're not taking care of us.
Well, I just got some breaking news in. I don't know if you have gotten this, Sal, but Congress just sent Obamacare repeal back to the president's desk for approval.
Do you think he'll start crying about that and start jumping up and down and taking a tantrum?
I don't know.
What about the impeachment thing going on?
Well, that's still not confirmable. I've looked in a lot of different areas. I haven't found it yet, so I don't want to really talk about that yet. That could also still be hearsay like many times before. But if there is, well, I certainly welcome it. Really do. One of you people, one of all of us people, not just you people, but all of us going to turn around and say, look, enough is enough. Enough is enough. We served our country. We took our oath. We did all this stuff. And that oath stands forever. Doesn't just stand until, okay, I'm out now. That's it. I'm going to join the civilian race, and I'm going to do this, that, and everything else. Guess what, guys? You don't join the civilian race. We can't make it in the civilian world, and all of you know why. You know why, unless you go turn around, work for yourself, or do something like that, because the amount of disrespect that there is out there, geez, sometimes I just wonder. I just think about it, and I say, geez, and I turned around and thought that I could go fight for your rights? Sorry, but that's how I feel.
Well, I mean, my personal belief is that it's not just a oath of allegiance to the Constitution for any particular amendment, and I think people need to realize that you swore an oath to all the amendments. Regardless of how some might feel about them, the supreme law of the land does still stay, and in that oath, it did tell us of all enemies, foreign and domestic. So,
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, I think we got our guest on the line, so we're going to bring him on. Welcome to VNR. You're on the air.
Hello, this is Jim Stallings.
Yeah, hi, Jim.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, sir.
So, hold on a second. I got my issue here.
That's fine. I understand.
And it's James Stallings Jr. James, before we get going, you want to describe your website, your talk show, and everything else first, and what you do, and how you can discover these end-around disruptors?
Well, you can find my work on YouTube. You can just Google my name. I've been a private, investigating on my own the chemicals and
Thank you.
that they introduce to us and the many different ways that they introduce them, known as endocrine disruptors. For my news show is called The News Ugly Show, and you can find it on Blog Talk Radio or your Facebook, or you can just Google The News Ugly Show. And I've been doing this for about 7 years. If you want to know what endocrine disruptors are, they're chemicals that at certain doses can interfere with the endocrine system or hormone system in mammals. That includes human beings. These disruptions can cause cancers, tumors, birth defects, and other developmental disorders. And pretty much any system in the body controlled by hormones can be derailed by hormone disruptors, specifically the endocrine disruptors. It may be associated with the development of learning disabilities, ADHD, cognitive and brain development problems, deformations of the body, including the limbs, your breast cancers, your prostate cancers, thyroids, and pretty much all the other cancers, sexual development problems such as the feminizing of male eggs in the fetus and the masculine effects of female eggs in the fetus. As a matter of fact, recently the Endocrine Society released a statement on endocrine disrupting chemicals, specifically listing the effects of being obesity, diabetes, female reproductive and male reproductive, and hormone-sensitive cancers in females, prostate cancers in males, thyroids, and neurodevelopment systems as being affected by the endocrine disrupting chemicals. Now, I guess what I'm trying to get at is these chemicals right here over the last 4 or 5 generations, probably even a lot longer than that, the government has been introducing these endocrine disruptors in your food supply, your water supply, spraying it on your city streets, saying they're killing weeds, driving around 3 o'clock in the morning through your neighborhood saying they're killing mosquitoes or field mice or whatever they're saying they're spraying for in your neighborhoods. If you just take the time to Google the chemicals that they are saying, your pesticides, your herbicides, your fungicides, all the other sides that they spray on your foods and around your apartment complexes, city streets, like I said, they're all endocrine disrupting chemicals. And if you look back at when they started spraying these chemicals across the United States, you will see that that is indeed when this large-scale ADHD and mental retardation started happening. I don't know if you remember back 20, 30 years ago, there was only so many people that was mentally handicapped or had any kind of problems like that. Now it's 1 in every 90, 1 in 60, and that number is going to keep
No, of course, it's going to keep climbing a lot.
And what's going to happen is it's going to get down for one every 5 kids, and then one every 4, and then one out of every 1, and then it'll start going into the minus effect of, there'll be 2 kids messed up for every 1 born normal. And this is basically a large-scale eugenics operation being carried out by the social elite in the disguise and for dandelions in your parks and so forth and so on.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Military-wise, we all got nailed with this stuff. We had it in our food. They were already testing out GMOs with us back in the 80s, before GMOs even knew what they were. You have certain type of endocrine disruptors, dioxins, for instance, PCBs. PCBs, for instance, they were outlawed, I believe back in the 80s or late 70s. Agent Orange was another one that was also outlawed in 71. However, they kind of watered that down and made glyphosate, and it's basically still being used today.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's the active ingredient around it.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah. And if you look at where they spray this, gentlemen, and for everyone that's listening, they'll spray it where your kids are going to be playing in the parks. They'll spray it up and down your city streets where you have to walk. I've actually caught people with backpack sprayers sneaking into people's yards and spraying without permission. Driving through welfare complexes and trucks turning on their sprayers just to spray the vehicles sitting in the lots. Me and Dan made a video. I actually found a plane had flown over a high school and dropped a lot of endocrine disruptors. Of course they say it's a mistake, but if you really get into looking at this, they'll drive trains across the country and spray endocrine disruptors all over the landscape. On your highways, they'll spray for weeds along your highways. All this is to contaminate your water supply if you have a well system. And if you don't have a well system, they give you fluoride.
Mm-hmm. Fluoride, from what I understand now, we're making some headway with that, and they're beginning to, a lot of towns are beginning to outlaw it.
Yeah, that's correct. And Monsanto, from what I understand, is actually having to go in front of a tribunal to answer for crimes against humanity.
Good. Well, they should be standing in front for us, too, but after what they've done to the people in the military. Yeah. I'd like to know when that stuff goes down, because I'd like to be there.
Yeah, we all would. But I would like to explain exactly how people are being affected. First of all, it affects the poorest of society first. Because if you walk into Walmart to buy your food, I'll give you an example. If you look at the cheapest cheese that they have at Walmart, and you look at the most expensive cheese, and this is any product of food that you get. You look at the cheapest stuff, it has 50 times the ingredients as regular cheese.
It's funny you should say that, because we were just talking about that last week.
We were talking about the cheese blocks from way back when
the old government cheese, and how it's the same exact color as, say, macaroni and cheese in the box, only in powder form.
That's exactly right. So, in reality, if it takes 50 times the ingredients to cheese, shouldn't that product cost 50 times more than the product without it in it? Because it costed 50 times more to make it.
Well, you would think, but then again, they could be getting rid of a lot of their waste in the cheese.
Well, that's how they're doing it. That's what I'm saying. In reality, your children are overdosing on endocrine disruptors to the point where it is causing all of the mental problems that society's having, the apathy that you were talking about earlier. All these chemicals can be traced to causing these problems.
And the sad part is that it's not a one-off deal. Endocrine disruptors, for a lot of you that might not know, is a cumulative effect. I have family members myself that remember riding their bicycles behind the DEET trucks back in the 70s, right in the middle of the cloud, because it was the cool thing to do, follow the mosquito truck. And it builds up through your systems and can be passed on to your children, and their exposure is magnified as well.
Yep, bioaccumulation, I think, is what you're saying. And you're exactly right. And I don't know, to all the listeners out there in Rhode Island, if you'd like to take the time to Google declassified material, in the 40s in St. Louis, they actually fitted vehicles to drive through the poor neighborhoods and spray radioactive isotopes on them.
Actually, they had. I was just going to talk about this. They actually had these things up on a housing project area on one of the buildings. They were spraying out. The stuff went on until the 70s, by the way.
Yeah.
It went on for a very long time. I know the person who did the study on that. I actually spoke to her a couple of years ago. I mean, this is the stuff that they've been getting away with. Now, the one big thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but being that I am also a victim of this endocrine disruption, chemicals, whatever you may call them, it doesn't always take a whole lot of absorption.
No.
To start to give you functions, to start to give you symptoms of your endocrine system going bad. For instance, my thyroid's gone a year and 2 months ago. It sucks that I have to take pills every morning, but we do what we have to do. Plus, I got a lot of other stuff going on. The VA keeps on saying, oh, you weren't there long enough, so you couldn't absorb enough. And it's like, excuse me, where we were, it's a base called Fort McCall in Alabama, in Anniston, Alabama. Actually, you might want to go check out my site. It's called poisonveterans.org. That talks about this base. The military police school, that's what we were doing, was contaminated with ionizing radiation, 7 million times the legal amount. And they say you weren't there long enough. The lies, everyday lies. These people are going to have to pay for it.
I would like to thank all the veterans that have served, and I want them to know that I mean no disrespect, but the government that you served has not had the United States in its best interest.
Well, we know that. We've said this many times.
And I could use an analogy on the chemicals that they sprayed on the people in Vietnam and everybody at Agent Orange. You ever watch the movie Braveheart? You ever see the final battle scene and they think that they've got Mel Gibson whooped, and the commanding officer orders his archers to open fire up on the center of the battlefield. And one of his officers underneath him said, my lord, won't that kill our men as well? And the guy said, well, yes, it will. That's exactly what they did to the troops in Vietnam.
That's exactly what they've been doing to the troops all the way through.
That's right, and I just want everybody to know, I am a militiaman in the United States militia, and our sole purpose is to defend people. We're in the awakening, the educational phase of getting this message out, and I want a lot of the veterans to know now that your country is going to call on you again very soon.
Well, we already have, actually. I don't know, you might not know this. I actually did put this out last week. We already have organizations ready and waiting. I mean, there's a bunch of us out there. It's not just something that, it's just going to snap your finger and everything's going to come together. This thing's already being planned. wait until the first shot's fired. That's what's going on, but there's a lot of veterans organizations that know what's going on. We actually know more so what's going on than many other people out there, and we try to keep it low-key as possible because we don't want to scare the population.
Well, I understand that, but they're running out of time. They're going to try to pick off everybody in different classes and disarm them, and they're going to do it in little phases. And the majority of the population have been so dumbed down by the chemicals that's been sprayed on their products.
This is almost like Idiocracy. You remember that movie?
Yeah, it really is. It's almost come down to that point. And you can blame Monsanto, you can blame Bear Crop Science, you can blame American Eugenics, Bill and Melinda Gates. You can blame all these people that want to kill off poor people. These are your transhumanists. Your transhumanists are the ones that want to merge with technology, merge a certain portion of the population with technology, and kill off the rest in the name of saving the planet. It's a facade. And this technology that you see has been around for many, many, many years, a lot longer than they let you know, and they have been feeding it to us. And eventually their end goal, like I said, is to merge a certain portion of the population, the best slaves, the best and brightest slaves, the ones that's really into technology, will be merged slowly over the next few generations, the end game. The majority of the bloodlines will be killed off with these chemicals, and there'll be no more money. Everything will be electric, and then eventually...
Well, that's already happening. For instance, in Scandinavia, I believe they're already getting rid of their currency there as well. They're just going straight to electronics. But anyway, that's not here nor there right now. Right now, we have something else to really, really worry about that really bothers us, is that, we're getting poisoned. We're getting poisoned daily. We're getting poisoned every second. This other thing, this new TPP that came out, now all of a sudden is mandating that you can't put place of origin from where your food's coming from.
Yeah, this is all a large-scale eugenics operation.
We are fighting this in Rhode Island. We're trying to get legislation through that any foods that are sold in Rhode Island have to have an origin stamp on them. Period. And it's right to do.
And I agree completely. But they are slowly eroding those rights away. And you see every time they pass a law like this, it's just affecting our kids more and more. I don't want everybody to know, don't take my word for it. I want you to investigate this stuff for yourself. These endocrine disruptors are extremely bad, and they've affected millions upon millions of people, and this is their key ingredient in dumbing down America and killing the vast majority of people off. It's a soft kill weapon designed to cull the population.
Now tell me,
they'll always tell you that they don't know what's doing it. Mm-hmm. But they'll always dismiss anyone who has any claim to what's causing the ADD and ADHD outbreak and all this stuff that's going on.
Let me ask you something. I mean, I know this. Dennis knows this. Dan knows this. A lot of people in the listening audience may not know this, but how do you come up with that assumption of soft kill? I mean, you must have found something somewhere that's...
Well, I just use common sense. I listened to the church leaders when I was a kid. They blamed everything on God, and I'm a realist. I was sitting outside one day. I'm just below the elementary school here in Utah, here in East Cloven, Utah. And the kids walked by from school, and I noticed, like, wow, out of the group of kids that walked by, there were so many that had Down syndrome and so many that was morbidly obese. And I thought, what could be doing this? And as soon as I asked a question, the chemical trucks that drive by my house, the unmarked ones, I said, well, I wonder if they're just driving by and spraying something on us that's causing it. So I told my wife, I said, I think that this is like Nazi Germany. We just don't recognize it because we have all these freedoms associated with technology stimulating our brain that we're not questioning what's happening right in front of us. You got all these people on the radio want you to look up at aliens coming from another planet. They're always distracted, you know?
Yeah.
And so I started focusing all my attention on the environment and, you know, who's driving what chemical trucks, where they're spraying, what they're spraying, the amount they're spraying. And then I just come to the conclusion that if they know it's bad, if it's bad, why do they put it there in the first place? And if it's so bad, why are there so many different trucks driving around spraying them? Mm-hmm. So after I looked at all the chemicals being sprayed out of trucks, I looked at all the chemicals in the water supply, and I found out that was the same class of chemicals. So I started doing my own research, and I learned about bioaccumulation, and I seen that people was just actually overdosing on endocrine disruptors, just like you would overdose on heroin or overdose on any other drug or alcohol. They're actually overdosing on endocrine disruptors.
Now, I have a little funny story to tell you. Besides being on the radio, besides doing the stuff I do, I also have a plumbing business. Actually, Dennis has helped me out quite a bit, Dan as well. A few years ago, just quite a few years ago, God, like 6-7 years ago maybe, I don't remember. They actually made television, and made local television. I kept on smelling something odd in the water. And I kept on, there's something wrong here, and it wasn't just in one place. Different towns I would go to, I would smell this something odd in the water. So I grabbed some of the water from different places and brought it to a friend of mine at one of our universities here, and I had it analyzed. They found high amounts of lithium, Prozac, antibiotics, and everything else in the water. Now, to everyone else, we know what Prozac does. We know what lithium does. Well, antibiotics likes to mess with your body as well, big time, especially when you don't need them, because then bacteria gets a resistance to them, because obviously it's in your body and they figure it out. The local television ran it. Then they came back, oh, this is because people are dumping these pills down the toilets and it's getting into the water supply. Well, so they started looking into it more and more and more and more, and then all of a sudden, it just disappeared from existence. Was never, ever talked about again. It's like somebody just came around and said, okay, that's it, you guys made your point, now go away. Now, we have this company called Amgen here in Rhode Island, who's a pharmaceutical company. Let's think about this. Where are they going to get rid of their waste?
And this is what's causing your decline of fish, ladies and gentlemen. The chemicals that they're putting in your water supply, in your food and stuff, your medicine, is actually causing homosexuality in your fish.
They actually, no, it's not just the fish. They actually found that in pelicans, too, down in Florida.
Yeah, and
I believe it's going into the people as well.
It is. See, they're doing it to us, and as a result, it's affecting the bees, the fish, the whole ecosystem. And it's going to eventually destroy the ecosystem to where you won't even be able to grow food. That's the end game.
Well, you won't be able to grow non-Monsanto food.
Exactly.
We got to get that straight now, because Monsanto has this way of generating their seeds, which, by the way, after you grow this plant, you can have all the seeds you want. It will never germinate into anything else again, because you have to go back always to the master's seed. And these seeds already have the resistance to the glyphosate and God knows what else inside them. And then, of course, you're eating them.
Yeah, they're going to use the plants to spread the chemicals to you. So the plants become resistant, but you don't.
Right.
And it's really worst case scenario. I mean, even with what I know about it, it's a lot worse than probably what I know about it.
Well, it is and it isn't. The one big thing that I have found, when I was a kid, and I used to love this commercial all the time, there was this lady and all the animals and everything else. It was a thing about parquet, margarine, and, it tasted like butter, and she would turn around and, big bolt of lightning and everything else, and she'd say it's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Mother Nature will come back, I'm telling you. They can try to do this all they want. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to get affected. Well, unfortunately for them, fortunately for us.
Well, and that's what's done why I say soft kill. It's done over many, many generations, so not one generation being educated by the people who are doing it actually catch on.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, over 5-10 generations, it's done did its...
Yeah, but with people like us around, I don't think they're going to be able to not, to deny us to other generations.
Well, that's right, and I think that's where the internment camps will come in, and the Rex 84, and I think that's what will really happen. I mean,
tell us about the Rex 84. What's that?
That's a plan to round up dissidents. They have all these prisons, these FEMA prisons, and for political dissidents, for the gun owners that's not going to give up their guns. This plan to take the guns and kill off the population have been around for a very long time.
Well, of course they have.
And it's been carried out, like I said, over so many generations, that it's almost impossible for 80% of the population to understand that they could plan something so long in advance and carry it out for so long without being caught.
Yes, Jim, but here's the big thing. From what I found with my own health, and I'm going to tell you, I cannot find anyone that I was stationed with at the time at that base. I can't find anyone. I don't know why. Are they all dead? Are they all gone? I have no idea. Fortunately, I'm still around. I think the major player to this whole thing is also what you eat. I have found making differences in my diet have helped a lot. I have found it helps a lot with my children as well. There are all sorts of different things. For instance, like the stupidest thing you can think about is the turmeric, which is an Indian spice, which is anti-inflammatory. The biggest thing is you need anti-inflammation in the body because a lot of these endocrine disruptors, that's the first thing they do. They attack you with inflammation in the body, and then everything just goes crazy.
Well, that's why I said a little earlier in the interview, it affects the poorest people first, because not everybody can go into Walmart or into a grocery store and eat the good food. There are a lot of people who suffer from the Agenda 21, them been sending our jobs overseas and deindustrializing America. When they walk into Walmart, they have no choice but to get the products.
The canned foods or what have you. Those are things that are not allowed in my house.
Yeah. Well, some people just don't have a choice, and that's the people that I'm speaking up for.
Well, some people may not have a choice, but we do have choices, actually, because if we really want to have a choice, sorry, but, there's all sorts of stuff around. You have farmers markets that aren't as expensive as, let's say, a Whole Foods. And you know that this food is being grown in a certain area and it's being grown in a certain way. You have the farmer who turns around and who actually certifies it. And I know plenty of them. And they're really not that expensive. The whole thing is people have to think out the box and find these things, but there are ways of doing this.
Yeah.
Our ancestors, for instance, hey, they needed bread. They baked the bread. Yeah. Seriously.
I understand, but they're taking away that right with Agenda 21 taxing your gardens. There you go. If you don't have the money to pay the tax, you're not going to be able to grow your own.
I believe that only happened in Illinois.
Well, look what John McCain did. He tried to push Food and Modernization Safety Act a few years back, and they're relentlessly they're arresting people for growing gardens in their own homes. They're growing tomatoes.
But it went nowhere, though.
But they're still arresting people.
Yeah, but it went nowhere, and they don't have a right to stand up in
It shows you
court.
they're trying.
But they can try all they want. People are still going to do this stuff. But I know that this stuff happened in Illinois more so. I know if they tried to do it here in Rhode Island, I'm going to have a garden. You're going to come up and tell me I got to pay a tax on this? Really? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll pay out my tax with copper and lead. And it's that simple.
I hear you.
So I don't see that. They can think that they can do this. See, they all think that they have one up on us, but unfortunately the truth of the matter is to them, is we have one up on them.
Bill S-510, Food and Modernization Safety Act.
Yeah, I remember that. And like I said, that went nowhere, Dan. That did go nowhere. Actually, the whole thing got repealed.
Then they had Codex Alimentarius, so bans zero calorie sales of vitamins and natural herbs.
And they tried to do that in Germany, and you know what happened?
Well, I'm talking about here.
Well, it didn't happen here, obviously, but they did try to pilot it in Germany, and it didn't go good.
Well, they're driving around in trucks spraying endocrine disruptors in a eugenics operation.
Okay, yes, you're saying that, but here's my issue. You know, usually that would be mosquito abatement and stuff like that. Well, mosquito abatement in many areas here in Rhode Island as well as Massachusetts, and I believe Connecticut as well, is now illegal. Because they found that it's doing other things to, you know, other type of creatures that are out in the swamp.
Well, that's, me and James here, that's thanks to us.
We know it's not illegal, but what we're saying is in Nazi Germany, it wasn't illegal for them to put chemicals on their citizens. It wasn't, by their law, illegal for them to disarm their citizens, and it wasn't illegal by their law to march Jews into the pits and kill them.
Right.
None of that was illegal, gentlemen.
I got that. But what I'm just saying is, here in a lot of states, this now became illegal. You can't use this stuff.
Well, that's thanks to me and Jim here.
Yeah, well,
I remember that when you alerted me about that, and I seen it in my own eyes. And basically, I called the Department of Health. I notified them, the Highway Department and everything else. I let them know, here's the chemicals in your own writings, and this is what's going to happen again if you spray these things. I told them we got people watching all over the state, and not once yet have I seen those trucks spray around my neighborhoods again.
And they quit spraying around my house, too. When they get to the bottom of my neighborhood, they turn their trucks off, they turn everything off, they drive past, and they turn their sprayers back on. In my part of Utah, sir, there is no standing water. We have no mosquitoes here. There are no mosquitoes in my part of Utah.
Of course not. They killed them all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't have any here. We're so far away from standing water that there are no mosquitoes.
Part of the problem that I see, especially with the Midwest, and anybody that's been paying attention to the local news knows about the standoff that was going on. Was that up in Oregon? There was also a standoff that was going on back in about a year ago in the Cliff and Bundy Ranch. But I lived out in Colorado in 2 years ago now. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but Utah still has water rights as well. Is that correct?
We don't have water rights, only if it's been grandfathered.
Right. That's what I mean, as far as specific farms and whatnot.
Yeah. I think they still have water rights.
See, and the problem, and I understand water rights from a farmer's perspective. The problem that I see with that is then you have these big lobbyist groups, such as Monsanto, such as Dow Aggregate, that come in and say, well, it doesn't matter what the law says. We're changing the law to say that we're the biggest farm in the area, so now we have all the water rights. And then all that water that runs off from them is now running into the other farms.
Well, it was illegal to catch rainwater, and they would do it for car washes and farms.
Actually, they repealed that in Colorado.
Oh, good.
Well, in Utah, it's still the businesses can't catch rainwater, so they're not going to kill that in Utah. It's different laws being introduced at different places across America at different times, so people don't catch on to what's going on.
And I'd like to explain to people that with bioaccumulation, I mean, yes, I support local farmers markets for your fruits and your vegetables, but what people don't realize, and the sad part is they think they're eating healthier by going to places like Whole Foods and getting free-range chicken or free-range beef. The problem is that the chemicals are also in these grasses and the corn meal that these animals are eating. I mean, corn is one of the biggest GMO products out there, and these animals consume it, and they consume so much of it they're actually starting. I mean, cows are getting beefier, chickens are getting stockier, and they're saying it's all for progress to have more meat per chicken, so that we're not harvesting so much of the animal. But the thing that people need to realize is that consuming that fauna, you're consuming what the cow consumed. And if the cow consumed the glyphosates and the endocrine disruptors, guess what? It accumulated in it for almost 10 years, 15 years before you ate it.
That's right. I could use a common analogy like this. If you were an evil person or an evil group of people, and you had a life form that was a little less technologically advanced and a little less educated to chemicals as we're talking to, and you wanted to introduce it to them without them knowing it, that they're being introduced to them, that's exactly how you would do it. Mm-hmm. That's why your children are going into early puberty. Mm-hmm. That's why your little girls are starting their premenstrual cycles early. Is because of the injections to the beef and the milk and all that. That's soft kill weapon.
Mm-hmm. Bottom line, it's all making money. Listen, you know, this country ceased being a country. It became the United States of corporations back in the help me out, Dennis, we talked about this once before. My brain sometimes doesn't like to work, but anyway, I think 1890 or something like that. And then, of course, in came the IRS, and in came the Fed, and in came everything else right after that. You know, one of my biggest things and one of my pet peeves is this. Corporatism, and this is what we have. I mean, just a few years ago, the guy who's in the White House, the guy, I can't even call him by name. Nah, not even that. He's got to have another name besides that. I'm sorry. No, come on. He was too good. Come on. Listen, that's enough from the peanut gallery over there, huh? You made me lose my train of thought. See, this is what endocrine disruptors do to you. They even get to your brain. But anyway, corporatism. And like I said, this guy in the White House turned around and made it that businesses, corporations, are treated just like individuals, like individual constituents, which is a bunch of crap. But anyway, I mean, you know this and I know this. Corporatism leads to fascism. This is what's happening now. This is what's going on in this country. Yes, we still have our freedoms. We still have our rights. They're trying to get away with getting rid of them, but you know, unfortunately to them, and very fortunately to us, there's still people like us that know and can read these people the Riot Act. Because you know as well as I do, most of the time, certain things can't even stand up in court. However, I'm sure everybody gets what I'm saying. Dennis, why don't you take it from here real quick?
Jim, if you could tell the listeners one more time where to find some of your blog radios.
You can find it on Blog Talk Radio. You can find it on Facebook. If you just Google The News Ugly Show or Jim Stallings Jr., it'll bring up the videos I've made on the different talk radios that I've been on.
couldn't help it.
My show, I'm down to do one episode a month, and it's kind of sketchy. I've been traveling a lot lately, and I'll be getting more back in.
All right, Jim. I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had an important call coming that I had to go grab, unfortunately. So sorry that I had to hand it off to you, Dennis.
Your corporations here, you know, they're fronts for Nazis.
Well, we know about Operation Paperclip. In fact, we're going to be having a show on that. We're almost out of time, Jim. So, but you will be back on again, and we can actually get into talk about that, you know, Operation Paperclip, Lyme's disease, and all the rest of the stuff that's going on.
All right.
All right?
Anytime.
All right, Jim. So thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Take care, Jim.
Well, that was very, very,
Informative.
extremely informative. Of course, a lot of stuff that we knew, but the behind this whole thing, you know, we were talking about water rights, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
T. Boone Pickens. I keep on always forgetting his name. This guy's been buying up water rights all over the world. What does this guy know that we don't know? I mean, I know that one of the next wars is going to be over water. But this guy is an oil magnate. Why is he buying up water?
It was like that scumbag who owns Nestle Water, California.
Yeah.
Everybody's going thirsty during last summer, and he's like storing up fields of water.
Yeah.
And he said everybody should buy water. Nobody should get it for free.
Anyway, this is what's going on. Tomorrow, next Tuesday, next Thursday, and possibly the next Tuesday again, I am going to be on a radio, a blog talk radio, with a Buchanan report. Buchanan report, these guys are investigators who worked for law firms, not lawyers, but the investigation side of it itself. They want to know what's going on with Fort McClellan. We've got a whole huge setup of shows with this. We're going to start with an educational background about it, and then we're going to go on to, you know, solutions, hopefully. So hopefully by the last show, I'm just hoping that we might just have an attorney on that could give us a little bit of legal advice. We're not sure about that, and in fact, if that does happen and does go down, then they will be here on WNRI at Veterans News Radio. So we'll see what happens with that. And, you know, anybody that wants to come in, I'm going to put the that link on the Veterans News Radio page, as well as on the, you know, I'll put it out on Twitter as well for anyone else that's following. Dennis, you just had something that looked interesting to me, but...
Well, we were talking earlier in the show about the that Marine unit that was in Afghanistan in 2008, the 2-7, and their high suicide rate. A new hotline has been created by vets for vets. It's called the Vets for Warriors hotline. It's a 24/7 confidential, stigma-free peer support by veterans to active duty, National Guard, reserve service members, veterans, retirees, and their families/caregivers. The hotline just received special funding and went live on January 1st. I've personally known people, and I myself am the child of a military suicide. If you need any help, and you don't feel like you're getting the help from the VA, you feel like you're getting bypassed either in long wait lines or you're talking to civilians that don't know what you've been through. These guys are there to help. They are vets, and they're willing to be, you know, there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And their number is 1-866-838-7654. Again, that's 866-838-7654. And their website, Vets for Warriors. Here's another number, national hotline, 855-838-8255.
We'll be putting those numbers on our website, on veteransnewsradio.com. That's a wonderful thing that they're doing. Unfortunately, you know, God bless the veterans we look out for each other, because certainly nobody else going to look out for us, are they? I think we've had a long, long line of experience with this. You know, I think that, in the close of the show, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say it the way I feel. We need to have them shove it. And I'm absolutely serious. Shove it. If they have all these problems, burn their cars, burn down everything, just break their windows, do whatever. Yeah, that's right. And you guys can come after me, because you know what? I'm that veteran of that little story that I was talking about, and you guys tried to kill me. And when somebody in my culture comes and tries to kill me, then I kill off their whole family. So I hope you people in government can hear this and know what the hell I'm talking about. You don't mess with people's lives, because once you do, it's over for you. You guys are dead to me. I don't have anything else to say. This is High Speed Sal. And I wish everybody a good week. And everybody watch your sixes, because they're out to get you. Trust me. Talk soon. Have a good night.